Hello, welcome back. It is week 178 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how you doing this week, bud?
Jeff, it's a big old game 3 tonight for the Celtics versus the Orlando Magic. Things are physical. Things are chippy. We have a 2-0 lead in the series, and by God, we are hoping enough for a sweep so that we can continue that march down the field on our way to Banner 19. But there's a lot of road between here and there, and we're not going to get too swept up in the what coulds and what shoulds right now. We're going to be here, be present, talking about music, talking about friendship, talking about musical concepts in friendship. How are you doing?
I'm doing spectacular. So I did see a bloodied up Kristaps Porzingis. Was that after game 1 or 2?
After 2.
After 2, yeah. So you said it was chippy. It certainly looked like that was going to be the case, but I'm not one that's normally going to mess with Eastern Europeans. So whoever wants to mess with Kristaps Porzingis, that's on them. Was he from Latvia or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think he's Latvian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, that's just that. I feel like people from there, they're tougher than I am. So I'm not messing with it.
He looks like one of the literal Monstars from Space Jam. Hey, little pig.
Yeah.
Boo. He looks like that guy. So, maybe don't. And he's like, we don't suffer punks. It's like, no, we certainly don't.
No.
Not here on the Celtics.
Yeah, even if I did before, I'm not now. That's for sure. Yeah.
Ask people about Grant Williams. He'll tell you. Ask Jimmy Butler about Grant Williams. He'll tell you. It's a little inside basketball, folks. Get into
it. Well, I did go last night, before we get into the album, I did go last night to an event called the Mac, Jack, and McConaughey charity gala.
Sounds hot.
So what my wife does for work, she works basically for part of the city of Austin, where it's the kind of convention tourism board side of things. We're trying to get these groups to come in. So she gets access to ACL live tapings, saw Sturgill Simpson's ACL live taping, saw Mitski, Maggie Rogers. We saw that one too. We've seen some really, really good ones. She's gone to see Juanis. She saw Jackson Brown do his there. We've seen some really, really good ones. So we get it. So she calls me or texts me last night. She was already at the event. I didn't think I was going. So I get home from work. I'm settled in. She texts me. She's like, hey, we might have an extra ticket. Okay, well, what's the dress code? How much time do I have? So she says, you got time. The concert doesn't start till 9. Just get here by then. It was 7:30 at that point. So I'm like, okay, take my suit out, steam my shirt, get in my car, drive down there. And I get there and they're still doing the charity auction. So granted, this is Matthew McConaughey, Mac Brown, the former coach of University of Texas, and Jack Ingram, who's a Texas country artist. Kind of got a little famous outside of Texas, but very, very famous inside Texas. So we're watching these bids, and there's one for going to hang out with the royal family, and it goes for $7 million.
What the fuck?
Yeah, $7 million. Yeah, and I think they ended up getting almost $20 million or a little more in donations, buying these packages. So it was go, a 3-day stay at someone's ranch and a private concert from so and so, and kind of all this stuff, and they go for hundreds of thousands of dollars every time. So they get to the end after they auction off everything, and everybody's feeling excited and good. And the wife of Michael Dell, Susan Dell, gets up there, and obviously from Dell Computers, lots and lots of money. They have their headquarters here in Austin. So she gets up there and she says, okay, this last part of the night, this is our favorite one. This is where we match donations. And it's to the Dell Children's Hospital. So it funds kids that can't afford surgeries and stuff. It's a good thing, right? Money goes to a good spot. So she says, we're going to start. We want $1,300,000 donations, and the Dells will match it. They get 1, and then 2, and then it's crickets. Absolute crickets. And you just watch all these rich people down on the floor, around their tables, all the people that have the money that are bidding, and you just watch them everybody's trying to just get real small. They don't want to be the ones to put up the 100,000. So they get they end up getting 4 of those. I think McConaughey pipes up and says, I'll donate 100,000, and just trying to get it going. So they end up with that. And then they drop it to $50,000 donations, and they get 5 of those, and she matches those. She starts having to be I'll double your donation if you give us a gift. And it was crickets at the end of that. Like nobody was given any more money. So like, I don't know if it's the economy right now or whatever it was, but like we're all sitting up there in the upper decks, all the poors. And I'm sitting and I'm looking down there. I'm like, what a bunch of cheapskates. Like, like these people, what, you can't afford $25,000 donation?
Yeah,
What
it's
do
only 50 grand, you
you,
bitch.
yeah, what do you, like, what are you even here for? You know?
Wow.
Yeah, like just so much money in that room. Like Michael Dell was down there, and like I mean, that dude is worth billions and billions of dollars.
Won't somebody think of the rich during times like
Yeah,
these, you know?
yeah,
These trying economic times in which we
yeah,
find ourselves.
yeah. Marla like turned to me at one point. She's like, I feel kind of embarrassed for them.
Well, it is called an embarrassment of riches, so
Yeah.
might as well be
So,
embarrassed.
so they get done with the auction, and then the musical performer was Eric Church last night. And I'm normally not into the style of country that Eric Church does, but I feel like he's got some contemporaries that I do tend to like, kind of before the Luke Bryan huge wave of things happened. So like Eric Church, Dierks Bentley, Billy Currington, there's a bunch of those guys that made some songs that I really, really like, but Eric Church definitely most of all. So like Drink in My Hand, Springsteen, Talladega, he played Record Year, Mr. Misunderstood, like a lot of the songs that I've really, really liked by him. He put on a very, very good concert, and he kept making cracks about the fact that the people he was singing to, he's like, you should have donated more. Like, just he'd like throw that into and it was very, very good concert, and it was just funny watching everybody was like starting to have a great time, and then he'd drop like oh, look at these bunch of cheap asses out here. Like just
I ain't appreciate going to the charity auction concert and getting hectored by some long hair.
yeah,
This is bullshit. I want my money back.
yeah, just a really, really fun night. It was great to witness the awkwardness. Glad I don't have the kind of money that I had to sit down there and be embarrassed like those cheapskates were.
Yeah.
I got to just enjoy the show with my free drink tickets. The only thing I spent a dime on was the t-shirt.
Is it sick?
That was
Is it
it.
cool?
It's the Mac Jack McConaughey shirt. It has like Eric Church and like the other performers that are going to be. I guess Miranda Lambert was performing at the golf tournament today. Ryan Bingham was performing at the fashion show, or maybe it was vice versa. I don't know. I didn't get invited to those. So
You didn't get invited to the fashion show? That's a crime.
I wouldn't have gone if wouldn't have gone if I was. Yeah, I don't want to belong to any club that would have me as a member, Alex. I stand firm by that.
As well you should, Jeff. And that is something that we stand firm by on the channel. I don't want to be accepted on any channel to which they would have me as a subscriber. Unfortunately, I'm lashed to this thing like Ahab to the whale. And it is youtube.com/C/out on that line, folks. I'm getting the plug in right off the top. I snuck right in there. Oh, slick like a baby seal. Oh, you're wet with my slime, with my thought slime. But here I am, baby. And take me as I am. I'm here to remind you real quick, like I won't stretch this out, but folks, you have to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. You have to click the notification bell so that you get notifications when this stuff comes out. You have to like the video. That's a helpful component of it. But even most important of all is making sure that you leave comments. In this video, in our other videos, you just have to interact with us, interact with your fellow random weird bozos that hove on into the comment sections of these. I love Kylie Minogue. I think she's a bitch. You should die. Discuss. All of that should and will be taking place at youtube.com/C/out on that line, folks. It's here. We're easy breezy. Come and join us. Summer's almost here. youtube.com/C/out on that line. Back to you, Jeff.
Well, I will say Kylie Minogue was fantastic in The Residents.
She was.
Yeah. So, while we did not like the album, and we certainly caught some heat in our comment section over that.
Well, did you know, Jeff, that you and I do not understand pop on a fundamental level?
Yeah,
that was an accusation that was levied at us. They don't understand pop music on a fundamental level. Yeah. Good to know.
I feel like you could just throw a dart at our video track list, and you probably find a million examples.
Mister, I am so dumb. I don't know how some days I wake up and remember how to breathe. You're going to sit here and hold me to some standard about knowing something
Yeah.
about pop music? I don't think
Yeah.
so, man.
We've done well over 200 albums on this podcast. Like for a long time we were doubling up every episode
Yeah,
with
yes.
albums. So this is number 178.
Yep.
Plus we did for the first probably like 50 of them. 2 albums at once.
It was quite the ride. It was a while. I don't know if it was straight up 50. I think
Well, don't knock us down here. We're just gaining steam
Right.
here, baby.
You're
We're just
right. I'm
getting
sorry.
we're just getting fired up. These people don't understand the work that goes into this, and you're going to sit here and tell me I don't know pop music.
Hardest working men on the internet, and you're good. We are Men at Work, and that is an Australian band, and that is a huge fucking coincidence, Jeff. And do you know why that is?
Well, that's very topical, I think, is what it is, because we're going to be talking about Lime Cordiale, of which Colin Hay makes an appearance on this album, and it's called Enough of the Sweet Talk. And I had never heard of Lime Cordiale. I've heard of the drink, never heard of the band. So tell me a little bit about how you found out about this. Was it this album that got you into them, or was this something's been stewing for a while?
Oh, it's been every now and then something happens to you and you're just left stewing in it. You've been stewing in it for a while. I might be stewing in something right now. I haven't checked. So Triple J, the Australian radio program, Triple J's YouTube channel, they have artists come on, typically Australian artists, but Gambino came on, and I can't remember who he covered, but at any rate, they have bands and artists come on and do one of their songs. They come in studio and do an original and do a cover. And some of the covers are really cool. Like there's this band, Polish Club, did a cover of Doja Cat's Say So. And it was one of those, like, as they say on Chopped, transform the ingredients. It's a cover that like really takes it in a different direction while kind of like maintaining that DNA. And it's very cool. And another band that did that was Lime Cordiale. It's a regular Eusexia. It can be whatever you want it to be. I'm gonna say Lime Cordial and be a fucking Midwest flyover state guy. Lime Cordial. But they did a cover of I Touch Myself.
Okay.
And it was very good. It was very good. It was fun, synthy,
another
cheeky.
Australian band, the Divinals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they just did a great job with it. And so I remember that was when Tanner and I were really ripping through Triple J content on YouTube. And so that was my first exposure. And then, as you might imagine, Tanner kind of took the ball and ran with it. And when this album came out, he was like, "Hey, man, I know you've listened to their stuff, but like, I really kind of need you to sit down and make some time for this one. I got to talk to someone about this album." And then by extension, I said, "All right, well, now I'm going to loop Jeff on this thing." So what'd you think?
And it's a dangerous thing, a Tanner recommendation.
It is a dangerous.
It's a safer bet for you than it is for me. I think
100%.
for the most part. But I will say, for the first 4 songs, I certainly felt that way. I was
Okay.
like, what the fuck is this? But then we get to the title track, Enough of the Sweet Talk, and it all turned around for me. So still don't love the first 4 songs, especially Facts of Life. I really felt like that song sucked a lot. But I'm going that hard on that part of it, because from there, Enough of the Sweet Talk, there was maybe like 2 spots where I was like, we're kind of back to how we were on the first 4. But I got a lot of like Arctic Monkeys starting at that point, which I really enjoyed, like old Arctic Monkeys, not the newer stuff that I've been on record as not liking very much at all. But just that very snarky storytelling kind of vibe, and like a very British kind of vibe to it as well. So they are an Australian band. I guess they are part of the Commonwealth, so it would make sense there's some of that influence in there. But it took until the song Colin with Colin Hay that I was like, hey, maybe these guys are actually not British. Maybe they're actually Australian. So I looked it up and they are. And my respect for them immediately ratcheted up like 3 spots, because really just don't like the Brits at all. That's a grudge I've been holding since 1776. I can promise you that. But this album, starting with that, it was a long album, but it really just didn't feel like it after that point. If the whole thing had been like the 4 songs to start with, Pedestal, The Milkman. I guess Pedestal wasn't that bad, but The Milkman, QI, and Facts of Life really did not enjoy. But from that point, I don't know, maybe this has happened in the past, but I don't remember an album where it's like I really just was out almost immediately and then it brought me back in and like have that big of a swing from like one extreme to the other. Like this one achieved it.
That's hard. That is very hard when it loses you to kind of where do you drum up the goodwill to get back into it? So I like Pedestal. I do like
Mhm.
that. Facts of Life, I do think is annoying. These are the facts of life,
Yeah.
which presents to me a problem.
See, if King Gizzard had done that song, I would have loved it.
Oh yeah, with like a weird time
Yeah.
signature behind
Like
it.
that's totally not a fair thing for me to say, but that's just how it is.
But it's part of the issue with Lime Cordial, which I will say I'm net positive on this. I like this album a lot. But those are the two big problems right there are it's pretty by the numbers conventional pop music,
Mhm.
kind of a tough move in a time where people are kind of finding some fun shit to do with pop, but they play it relatively safe and you live by that safety and you die by that safety. And there's also, you can't say that they don't know how to write a hook, but you live by the hook and you die by the hook because
Mhm.
you get one like, these are the facts of life. And it just doesn't work. This song is too, I don't even know how you would
It's
describe it.
very twee.
It's twee.
It's
It's twee.
very lemon twiggy, and
Okay, hang on
I
now.
did not appreciate it.
Well, I love the lemon twigs, but that's a different
Yeah.
discussion. But I also think it's partially the way that this album is structured. It's a whole cycle of a romance.
Mhm.
Meeting the person, falling in love, getting to know them, realizing you're incompatible, losing them, mourning them, starting over again. So we're starting, the twee makes sense for like where we're starting in the album off the
Yeah.
top, where like we're still kind of in those salad days.
Very sweet and saccharine. Yeah.
Sweet and saccharine, baby.
Yeah.
But uh, yeah, Facts of Life was grating to me. You get something Imposter Syndrome. I really don't like that song. That one bugs the shit.
Yeah.
I'm living with imposter syndrome.
See, that one I think that got a break for now. If they had stuck that after Facts of Life, that I probably would have lumped it right in with it. But I think they bought some goodwill in between those. So like I didn't love Imposter Syndrome. Like that's one of those spots where it kind of like started to dip back towards, where I wasn't liking things at the beginning. But it didn't feel as bad because it was just one ingredient in the sandwich instead of the only part of the meal I'd had so far.
Yeah, fair enough. It's but this album is difficult. It's difficult, which you would not necessarily think that it was because it's just like a pretty bog standard pop album, which again is like faint and damning praise. It's enjoyable. It's a rare album, like you said, where you were pretty like out selling on this for 4 tracks and then it somehow sucked you in. That's a feat in much the same way as like the more that I listen to this, the more the bloom is a little off the rose and you're a little less enamored with it and you're a little more selective about it and you're listening a little closer. And I think to me, stuff like Colin, at this point, Colin might have been my favorite song off the album. I like the big reveal. Pedestal is fun. Um, but I think Colin, like you get something like When I'm Losing It is a weird song that like doesn't necessarily like fit with this pop thing that they're doing. It does thematically, it doesn't necessarily fit musically. There are these flashes of like the cheeky Australian
Mhm.
coastal indie pop guys, and then there are these flashes of maybe something a little like emotionally deeper that doesn't necessarily like cohere. The whole thing is not necessarily coherent around that. So it made it a little bit of a difficult listen where it's like, here I'm getting fun, synthy, infectious pop. Here I'm getting something that feels like a Xerox of that.
Mhm.
Here I'm getting something that feels totally incongruent with this entire album. And now here we are back again to something that's pretty okay.
And you have, the little interludes, like the Q 1 2 3 and 4, where it's
Yeah.
like that's really where it's kind of like doing the snap thing where it's like, okay, this is the next part of the story. Like this is the honeymoon phase. Snap, this is the deeper in the relationship phase, and then snap, things are getting rocky, and then snap, things are done. And I think it feels a little bit like they're kind of hitting you over the head with that if they could have made, and it's hard to like say you didn't write specifically about, you didn't write specifically enough, because I didn't have a big problem with any of the lyrics really throughout the album. Like some of the songs I just didn't like overall, but the lyrics weren't the problem. But it's like you got to be able to really tell that story without needing that stark of a reminder about like kind of where you're at in it. It's like some of the worst movies you can watch are the ones where they beat you over the head with the hero's journey, where
Hmm.
it's like you can, you know what I mean, where it's like in lockstep you can like tell exactly what's going to be going on with this. It's like an episode of SVU. It's like what the beat of everything is going to be, and you know what to look for, and you know how it's going to go, so like nothing ends up really surprising you. And I think that's part of the issue with the album, is like even though I did swing back to really overall enjoying myself, and I think just like you would, net positive, I don't think I'm going to quite reach to a buy it on this one, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But I think it's it's just like the way it does hit you over the head with like telling you this is this part of the story, this is this part of the story. It's like you, if your writing was strong enough to say that, you wouldn't have needed the extra, or you wouldn't have needed to make it as obvious as that, and it's, well, I appreciate like it's part of the storyline, it's part of like what they're trying to say. I don't know that you would have known that that's the storyline without those tracks.
Yeah, it's, and beyond like the storyline issues, I think for me, because I think it's a noble ambition, I guess if you want to call it that, to do like the life cycle of a romance. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't even necessarily think that they like horribly fumbled the execution of it. I think, again, where I'm talking about like you live and die by the hook, you live and die by the cheeky irony you're able to infuse into it. You live and die by the tone and by the exact flavor of pop you're trying to convey. I think the biggest barrier to me with this was it did feel a little all over the place at times, and when it kind of realized that's what it was doing, it would default back to like, here's a shiny like synth Australian coast fun summer banger
Mhm.
for you, which is great, and those are great. But I guess I look at it, and again, I'm like, in the year of our Lord 2025, where you got people doing a lot of weird stuff with pop, you have a lot of people doing weird stuff with music in general. It's this is something that's kind of hard to grade, where it's like it's not bad, it's not a fumble, it's not a misstep, but I've listened to so much great music this year that came out this year, and also just like I'm going through a big Tragically Hip thing right now.
Mhm.
I watched that documentary, No Dress Rehearsal.
You can
Um,
afford the tariffs.
well, for now I can afford the tariffs. Try to tax over my dead body, you'll tax me hip. Um, but I've just listened to so much good music, and I know it's not necessarily supposed to be the kind of thing where it's like all your music that you listen to is in competition with one another, but you only have so much time, right, to dedicate
Mhm.
to stuff. I've been big on my King Giz shit again in anticipation, get it right, motherfucker, of their new album that's coming out in June. Been listening to a lot of Giz,
Mhm.
and
The new singles for Giz are awesome,
they're
by
fucking
the way.
awesome. We're
Yeah.
gonna get Disco Giz apparently, but you your time. These things do ask a lot of your time, and you have to place a certain value on your time and be judicious with it. And I guess that it's kind of unfair to talk about this album in the context of the one we're going to talk about next on a separate episode, which these people will watch.
Mhm.
But it's just it's a tough position to be in, where there's nothing wrong with the music that you're making, but it's just not that exciting. And I think that might be the biggest problem with this album. Is it's technically good it's just not that exciting.
Hmm.
It's hard to recommend on those grounds. It's fun. I sent it to my sister. I was like, "Hey, you like Arkells, this Canadian band? These kind of remind me of like
Hmm.
Australian Arkells. Check them out. Good summer vibes. You might like it." That's about as much as I can muster up at this point, having listened to this a million times.
Yeah, I would love to see, and on their next effort, I think like cut some of the fat, like cut some of that out of there, because
Yeah.
there are some really pretty great moments on it. Some of those hooks are really fantastic, but it's just I think it just needs some careful editing, I guess is how I'll put it. But I think there's a lot to like in this album, especially if you're already a fan of bands like the Lemon Twigs, or if you like the Arctic Monkeys, you kind of like that more British style, even if you like some Australian bands too. Like I think there's going to be a lot for people to find that they like in this, but it's just not enough there, given the whole length of the album, for me to go anything above a stream it. Like I'm not going to say skip it, because I think there's a lot on there that I did like, but it's really just stream it is as high as I'm going on this one.
I think that's totally fair. Again, it's like for some reason I just picture the shock on Tanner's face when he listens to this and being like, "How
Yeah.
could you have turned on this album, my boy? Look what they've done, my sweet cheese, my good time boy." Um, but you're right. I think some like judicious pruning would have worked. It's a 49-minute pop album, and I'm not a length guy that complains about that. Like, I remember I went to see Sinners, and the guy in line behind me and his girlfriend looked at it and they're like, 2.5 hours. Yeah, fucking right. And I was like, you do it for Captain America, but you won't do it for an original
Mhm.
IP. Got it.
Yeah. And that
Um,
the runtime always includes the credits, which are like 20 minutes long.
Well, yeah, and also just like let them paint you a world, let them take you
Yeah.
away. It's the same thing with music. Like you shouldn't be intimidated by runtime. And I certainly don't look at it like if I look at a King Giz album that's like disc one, disc two, three, four, and it's an hour and 45 minutes long, I don't go, oh fuck. You have the option to, you don't have to listen to it all in a sitting,
Hmm.
or you can, but like deciding from the jump that like the length is a problem isn't the way to go about it. But when you become aware of the length organically, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And this does start to wear out its welcome towards the end.
Hmm.
You get past Q3 and it's not necessarily a referendum on the quality of those songs in the back quarter, but you do kind of start looking at your watch a little bit.
Hmm.
Um so I guess yeah, to sum it up, I would also say it's a stream it. It's fun. It's something you maybe you'll really love it. It's something that I think has made it into my rotation in terms of throwing some of the songs onto playlists, and these things will come up and I'll recognize them and enjoy them. And if someone said, "What do you think? Should I give it a listen?" Absolutely. But I wouldn't. There are also like a bunch of other things that I would probably recommend before this, just because the quality of those things, particularly this next album we'll talk about in the next episode, the quality of these things is so elevated at this point that it's hard to say, yeah, carve a bunch of time out of your day for this.
Hmm.
So it's a big ask for a 49-minute pop album that's not really taking a ton of chances artistically, but it's also, it ain't bad. It ain't a bad way to pop those in your ears and have a little fun. So I would say you can't go wrong with a solid stream it.
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of this one. I think Tanner's going to disagree.
He's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, he's going to be upset, but when is he not?
Little guy, he just maxes out the old ticker. He gets too upset.
Well, folks, don't forget to subscribe down below. You already know it's at youtube.com/C/out on that line. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you want to hear. And until next time.